In this video, I'm going to show you how you can build a $35 Kelsien the Plague Commander deck. Let's get started. Quick disclaimer, the total cost of this deck was just under $35 as of the day of recording. Prices were checked using mtgstocks.com. However, the cost of the commander as well as the basic lands was not calculated in that total. Do note that prices fluctuate, so they may be above or below where you see them listed at in this video. Kelsien the Plague is a 3 to cast 2/2 human assassin with vigilance and haste that reads, it gets +1/+1 for each experience counter you have, and you may tap it to deal 1 damage to a creature you don't control, and then when that creature dies this turn, you get a +1, or you get an experience counter. So the goal of this deck is to give Kelsien Death Touch so that we can kill off our opponent's most vital creatures, giving Kelsien more experience so that it's bigger and able to attack for more. It does have vigilance, so we're able to sort of swing in for free on our opponents if we can either open up lanes by killing off their creatures or just forcing them into bad blocks, and then waiting till the opportune moment to tap Kelsien to destroy our opponent's creatures. We're also going to be running quite a few other pingers, which you'll see in a minute, but we're going to start out by talking about Accelerants. We are running 9 of them in this deck, which is on the lower end, but we also have a lower average CMC, so seems to work quite well. For ramp cards, we are running a lot of rocks: Talisman of Conviction, Talisman of Hierarchy, and the Mardu Banner. The banner we can notably sacrifice for 3, a red, white, and black, to draw a card. And similarly, we have each locket, a Rakdos, Boros, and a Orzhov locket, which give us 2 of our colors, and we can sacrifice to draw 2 cards when we have extra mana and we don't need the ramp. Last rock we have is the Rakdos Cluestone, which gives us black, red, and can sacrifice for a single card. And then not really true Accelerants, we have the Pilgrim's Eye as well as the Armillary Sphere, which help us to fix our lands, get us the colors we need, and help us to not miss our land drops. For cards in our game plan, we had 20 cards specific to our game plan. Some of these were hard to pinpoint down specific to our game plan, as they could have also gone under cards that interfere with our opponent's game plan, such as the Fireslinger, Cunning Spark Mage, and Volshock Sorceress or Sorcerer. All of them are pingers, which is great and help us to remove our opponent's creatures, or we can actually use them to ping players, so they could be considered interference, but you don't necessarily know that your opponent's going to be running little creatures for them to even be able to destroy on their own. However, we want to get lots of pingers out, so here's a few of them. Some more pingers we have is the Blood Cultist, Rakdos Ixbitter, and the Viashino Fangtail. Fangtail is nice because it comes on a medium-sized body, so you can kind of keep it back to hold off your opponent's small to mid-sized creatures, using it for blocks. The Blood Cultist is also cool because it sort of simulates your commander in that it gets bigger each time it kills one of your opponent's creatures. Lastly, we have Nightfire Giant, a bigger version of a pinger that you actually dump mana into, so you can get multiple creatures once you get late into the game and have a lot of mana. Circara the Bold, which is another pinger that if you don't have any targets can help get you card advantage, and then of course Kelsien the Plague itself. A better option for this deck is actually the Deathbringer Thokdar, but I don't have it in my own personal build just because this card, there's bad blood in my play group with this card, so I'm running the Nightfire Giant. But if you want a little bit better card that's still under $1, run the Deathbringer Thokdar. Once we get those pingers out, we want to be able to give them Death Touch, and we're going to do so with equipment such as Gorgon's Head and the Gorgon Flail, which give both Death Touch, and the Flail notably gives +1/+1. We also have Retreat to Hagra, which turns all of our land drops into giving a creature Death Touch, which is great. And if you don't have any targets that you want to give Death Touch, you can also just drain your opponents out, which is nice. The Archetype of Finality, Onyx Mage, and Ankle Shanker all give creatures Death Touch, and it comes on a creature, so we get a lot of utility here. The Ankle Shaker gives Death Touch and First Strike, so you can attack a lot more freely. A couple of cards that don't really go with the Death Touch and pinging plan are the Clackbridge Troll and Kalemne, Disciple of Iroas. The Clackbridge Troll just gives us a big body that we can swing with, and it also gives us targets for Kelsien to be able to gain experience counters and level up so that it gets bigger and can attack for more. And then Kalemne helps to just expedite our experience counter in that whenever we play a creature with 5 CMC or more, that is going to get us an extra experience counter so that Kelsien is attacking for more. And also Kalemne can just come in after you've gotten a bunch of kills with Kelsien and just be a huge body. I've had this come in as a 9/9 in playtesting this deck, so you have a 9/9 Vigilant Double Striker. It's pretty powerful. To protect our game plan, we have Kaya's Ghost Form, Make a Stand, and Shelter. Make a Stand can protect our entire team or multiple targets. Kaya's Ghost Form protects from exile. And Shelter gives us a card draw after we're done protecting our creature. For cards that interfere with our opponent's game plan, as you saw, there were quite a few already in our game plan actually, but these ones will almost always be able to get a hit. We have Bloodbrand, which draws us a card after giving something Death Touch. Witch's Mist, which can work on our own pingers, but also in our opponent's combat steps as well. And then Crackling Doom, which gets in some damage and forces our opponents to sacrifice their most powerful creature. Ravenous Chupacabra, Ogre, Siegebreaker, and Obnixilis can all help us to destroy creatures. Obnixilis can also help us draw cards. I have yet to use his ultimate in a game, as his +1 and -3 are just so useful to continue cycling through between them both. Ogre Siegebreaker is great because, just like the Witch's Mist, you can use this during your opponent's combats as well. Overseer of the Damned helps us to get some targeted removal, gives us a big flyer, which is pretty cool. Crypt Rats is even cooler because if you can give it Death Touch for a single black, you can wipe the board of all creatures. And then Sublime Exhalation helps us to wipe the board of all creatures if it gets out of hand. Usually tends to be when we're playing opponents that have those token type strategies where they just snowball out of control. So this can help us. It also can be really cheap in a 4 to cast destroy all creature type spell if we have 3 opponents or possibly more. For artifact and enchantment removal, we have Disenchant, Forsake the Worldly, and Dwergar Hedgemage. Do note that the Hedgemage, you need to have mountains or plains on the battlefield to get the trigger when he enters. So when you're playing this deck, use your fetches. There's quite a few cards that help us fetch out basics. Use your fetches to fix your mana, and then once your mana is fixed, start trying to get to those 2 plains and 2 mountains so that when and if you pull the Hedgemage, you can play it and get the most value out of it. Crush Contraband helps us get an artifact as well as an enchantment. Despark gets any permanent as long as its CMC is 4 or greater, and Mortify can hit a creature or an enchantment. Lastly, we have Akroma's Vengeance, which can wipe the board of all artifacts, creatures, and enchantments. And if you don't need that, you can just cycle it away for 3, drawing hopefully a more relevant card. For consistency, we're running 14 cards, which is a pretty solid card advantage number. Sign in Blood, Thrill of Possibility, and Read the Bones all help get us 2 cards, either at the cost of 2 life or possibly discarding card. We do get to scry 2 before we read with the bones, so that's pretty nice. We also have Painful Truths and Ambition's Cost, which are going to draw us 3 cards at the cost of 3 life, and then Siphon Mind, which is going to draw us cards equal to the number of opponents we have, and it's also going to force our opponents to discard a card, assuming they have a card in hand. Nezumi Grave Robber gives us some good exile graveyard hate, and if we can flip it, then we can also reanimate creatures with it. And then Stormfist Crusader gives everybody a draw and forces everybody to lose a life at the beginning of our upkeep. However, we get the most advantage out of this as it's on our own turn, so we're going to get the first play off of that new card. And it also has Menace, so you're able to get in some little bits of damage here and there with it on your opponents. For enchantments that give us consistency, we have Underworld Connections, Outpost Siege, and Furious Rise, which help us to just get advantage turn over turn as long as these are out. We also have the Charmbreaker Devils and Staff of Nin, which continue to get us advantage turn over turn. Staff of Nin synergizes well with the Ogre as well as the Witch's Mist that I showed you earlier, as they can deal damage, and then you can use either of those cards to kill something off, or it can just help double up your damage with another pinger. If that pinger doesn't have death touch, you just make it a little bit more formidable. And then the Hoarding Dragon, which essentially tutors out either the Staff of Nin or usually one of your death touching artifact equipments, so that when it dies, it ends up going to your hand, just ends up getting you an extra card over the course of the game. For lands, we're running 41 of them. We have Rogue's Passage, which can make something unblockable, Sequestered Stash, which gets us one of our artifacts back from the graveyard, and then Ash Barrens, which helps us to fix our lands or can come in to give us a colorless if we need it that turn. For more land fixing, we have Myriad Landscape, Terramorphic Expanse, and Evolving Wilds, which help us to fetch the basics we need. Orzhov Basilica and Shambling Vent give us white-black. Boros Garrison, Needle Spire, Stone Quarry, Temple of Triumph, and Windscarred Crag give us red-white. And then we have Akum Refuge, Bloodfell Caves, Cinder Barrens, Lava Claw Reaches, Rakdos Carnarium, Temple of Malice, Urborg Volcano, Rakdos Guildgate, and Tressorhorn Sinks to give us black-red. Command Tower and Nomad Outpost give us all three of our colors. And for basics, we are running 10 swamps, 5 mountains, and 2 plains. The average converted mana cost of this deck was 3.35, so on the lower end. There is the curve, as you can see there. If you like controlling the board, being able to ping things to death with your poison tip arrows, give this deck a go. I think you'll like it. Here are a few cards I would consider if I were to go above that $1 price point. If you want to see some more ideas, check out the link in the description below. Better yet, share your thoughts in the comments what card you would upgrade with. That way, others can see your brilliant ideas and alter to their liking. If you liked the video, you should give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. If you do, make sure you ring the bell so you don't miss any of the new weekly content from Budget Commander. Otherwise, you can check out the video in the top right or either of the playlists on the bottom.